I see by the clock on the wall that it is 1 o'clock, so I'm going to call us to order. Just a reminder to ourselves, just so we know why we're here, Council today is meeting as the Emergency Advisory Committee, so we are a committee today. Anything we do will get referred upon to Council as any other committee. I will start, Mr. Westerson, with a roll call.
Thank you, Madam Chair, for this meeting. Councillor Bieber.
Here.
Councillor Doria.
Present.
Councillor Wolf.
Here.
Councillor Dodick.
Voiceless.
Online. Oh, I see we have Councillor Schmidt-Rempel is online. So Councillor Schmidt-Rempel, or pardon me, Deputy Mayor.
Yep, here. You can hear me okay?
Yep, we can hear you. And I see Councillor Parker has just joined online as well.
Yeah, thank you.
And then Acting Mayor Crowson is chair.
I am here.
Excellent. Thank
So
you.
if my counting is right, we definitely have quorum. We have everyone we need to get the meeting going. So we will move on to the acknowledgement statement. The City of Lethbridge acknowledges that we are gathered on the lands of the Blackfoot people of the Canadian Plains and pays respect to the Blackfoot people past, present, and future, while recognizing and respecting their cultural heritage, beliefs, and relationship to the land. The City of Lethbridge offers respect to the Métis and all who have lived on this land and made Lethbridge their home. Moving now to the adoption of the agenda, I have a motion from Councillor Wolf. Be it resolved that the January 29th, 2026 agenda of the Emergency Advisory Committee meeting be adopted as presented. Mr. Westerson, is there any changes or amendments to our agenda?
Not that I'm aware of.
All right, Councillor Wolf, the motion is yours.
Call question, please.
Questions called. All in favor? All right, we have an agenda. It has been adopted. Moving to the approval of minutes. I have a motion from Councillor Doria. Be it resolved that the Emergency Advisory Committee approve the minutes of March 16, 2021 and authorize the Chair and City Clerk designate to sign the same. Councillor Doria, your motion. Question's been called. All in favor? And that motion passes as well. So from our approved agenda, we have one presentation. It is the Emergency Advisory Committee EAC update. And we, of course, have the chief and members of the fire department here. So, Chief, I will hand it over to you. So I'm not sure if you're going to present or if your colleagues are going to present.
Good afternoon, and thanks, everyone. Yeah, we'll present collaboratively here today, but I'll start us off. I want to start today's meeting, of course. This is an annual meeting that we need to talk about and provide an update from the Emergency Advisory Committee. I want to first by talking about our structure quickly, who that involves, and then I'll move on throughout the presentation. So emergency management within our city falls under risk and control under the leadership of Dave Schultz, who is here today. From that structure, there's two people that report. We have Eric Foster, our emergency management planning administrator, and we have Jamie Anderson, our emergency social services emergency planner administrator as well. From there, we have the Director of Emergency Management, and through the bylaw that is appointed to the Fire Chief, who is me, and we have the Deputy Director of Emergency Management, who are the Deputy Fire Chiefs, and we have 4 of those individuals. Sitting to the right of me, I'd like to introduce Deputy Chief Kevin McEwen. The other 3 are Deputy Chief Wes Borland, Deputy Chief Cody Gunlock, and Deputy Chief Chris Damaris, who are not with us here today. So with that being said, what I want to do is I will be passing the mic over here to Deputy Chief Kevin McEwen, who will update us, and then over to Eric Foster. But what we're here today is obviously through legislative, we need to update you annually on an emergency, where we are within our emergency management program. So that's what we are doing. In addition to that, we will take this opportunity to talk to you about our emergency management bylaw. Our emergency management bylaw was last updated in September, or in 2019. So we'd like to talk to you about updating that bylaw through this presentation here today. With that being said, I will turn it over to Deputy Chief Kevin McEwen, who will bring us up to speed.
This thing's not working for slides. Red's good? Okay. We could just move on to the next slide too. Sorry, I was trying to change it on here. It's not working. Yeah, good afternoon. Thanks a lot for being here. We thought we'd go through a quick review. We do have some new counselors on the council, obviously, this year. So just want to do a quick awareness for everybody and a review on the legislation that's guiding our work in emergency management. So initially, we have the Emergency Management Act, and that's the primary provincial enabling legislation that grants the City of Lethbridge its legal authority to act, respond, to declare a state of local emergency during a disaster. It mandates that the local authority, being the city, is responsible for direction and control of emergency response and must establish an emergency advisory committee and agency. So this is part of, obviously, we're mandated to have this committee here today, and this is why we have to meet on at least an annual basis. Now, moving on, there was some updates brought forward, the province brought forward, which has been implemented in 2025, and that was through the Public Safety and Emergency Services Statutes Amendment Act, otherwise known as Bill 49, and that modernizes how we're to plan for, respond, and recover from emergencies. And one of the most significant changes is a tighter, more precise definition on what constitutes an emergency. By defining these events as sudden and temporary, which is the new language in the Act, it narrows the scope of authority, ensuring that the extraordinary powers are used only for as long as necessary to restore public safety. So that's kind of narrowing that scope of when a local jurisdiction can enact a state of local emergency and what powers thereby that municipality has to carry out under that. Quickly, next is the regulation. So that's the Local Authority Emergency Management Regulation, or we call it the LEMER. This is really where Eric gets to live and guides a lot of his work. So this mandates the requirements for emergency plan reviews, training for staff, training for elected officials, and the frequency of disaster exercises. And I believe that council had an opportunity to go through some emergency management training. So that is legislated in the regulation, and one of the updates actually in that Bill 49 is that it has to take place within a certain amount of time after election. The next piece, which there's a lot of changes as well too, and obviously I can't go through this entire program, it's quite massive, but the province has introduced a new disaster funding framework, and that's called HARP, or the Hazard Assistance and Resilience Program. So this completely replaces the previous DRP, or Disaster Recovery Funding Program. And it was specifically designed to align with the modernization of the federal disaster plan. So some recent changes there too. The province of Alberta has now, with HARP, aligned with the federal program. In terms of local impact, HARP imposes the conditions of a 90-10 cost-sharing funding model for municipalities to recover expenses incurred due to a large incident or disaster. So what that means under this model, the province pays 90% of eligible costs, while the city would be responsible for the remaining 10%. HARP funding doesn't trigger for every minor event. So this isn't for the house fire we go to or the car accident we go to where we have a response. These are for disasters, significant, complex events. So there's a funding trigger to access this program. So the city must first meet a financial threshold of $250,000 in eligible expenses relating to an incident impacting the community before we can go to the HARP program, before we go to the province to look for some funding to assist. To remain eligible for the provincial dollars, the city must now demonstrate a mitigation mandate within our local bylaw. The province has made it clear that this cost sharing is a privilege for ready and resilient communities. Funding is prioritized for communities that have completed their hazard and risk assessments, something Eric is working on and has completed some of, and have a documented plan to go along to reduce those risks. It's essential to align with the latest program changes in our bylaw to ensure the municipal tax base is protected from assuming 100% of the costs that could be incurred during a large incident. And finally, we have our local legislation, our City of Lethbridge Emergency Management Bylaw, 6179. As Chief said, this was last revised in 2019. And really that takes the act, the regulations, and puts it into our municipal operations. It's the formal document that establishes our Emergency Advisory Committee, our agency, and appoints the Director of Emergency Management, and the local authority required to declare a state of local emergency, or a SOL, as we also call it. By updating the bylaw, we ensure that our local governance is fully aligned with the law, giving us the legal and financial tools we need to respond effectively when it matters most. Next slide, please. And a little bit of background for everyone on why we're here today in the Emergency Advisory Committee. So these are some of the primary functions and duties that are expected of the EAC. And some of the core responsibilities, primarily this committee provides the high-level guidance and direction for the Emergency Management Agency here in Lethbridge. It's also the EAC's role to advise council on the status and development of various emergency plans and programs, which have to be reviewed on an annual basis and stay current with changing and evolving hazards and risks in our community. During an actual emergency or disaster, the committee's function shifts to active oversight. You'll receive updates from most likely the city manager or delegate during a large response or disaster to keep you up to date as far as what's happening during that response. And you hold the authority to declare and also terminate a state of local emergency. This ensures that the significant legal powers triggered by the SOL remain under the direct oversight of elected officials. The composition of the committee is described in the bylaw. The mayor serves as the chair of this committee. And while we have a legislated requirement to meet at least once annually to review the program, it's also designed to be agile. The committee can meet at any time due to a meeting called by the mayor or the Director of Emergency Management, regardless of if there's an active incident response or not. And we'll go next. Okay, so this is talks about the agency. While the EAC provides the strategic oversight, the agency is really the staff. It's the operational engine that carries out the emergency management program for the City of Lethbridge. The core membership, the Director of Emergency Management, being Chief Adair, the City Manager or their designate, and specialized leads for emergency preparedness and emergency social services, which Chief mentioned, Jamie and Eric. The team's responsible for the administration of the city's emergency management program and must ensure our plans are reviewed and reported on an annual basis. We recognize that disasters require different expertise, and the bylaw specifically empowers the director to appoint advisory members as needed. This allows us to bring in specialized knowledge from other city business unit or external partners, public and private organizations within the region to ensure our response is as comprehensive as possible. Next slide, please. Perfect. So as mentioned, just a little bit more, the Director of Emergency Management, being Chief Adair, is formally appointed through the bylaw, and this ensures our agency is led by a professional with deep operational experience in crisis response. Also, emergency management requires that agility. So to ensure the city can respond 24/7 and we have someone available to activate the ECC or EOC 24/7, the director's authorized to delegate their powers down. And so that's what Chief has done with naming all of the deputy chiefs as deputy directors of emergency management, where we are on call on a rotational basis, so someone's always there, ready to answer that call and initiate a response. And we'll go to the next slide, and I'll pass it over to Eric here. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm going to begin with the plan review, and I will start with the hazard assessment. The hazard assessment is a tool that we use to identify hazards that could affect the community and assess their potential impact. This also helps provide direction, establish priorities, aids in plan development, and training. Updates were completed earlier this month to this hazard assessment, but it is an ongoing process that is regularly monitored. Minimal changes in terms of where hazards score over the last 5 years, and this is reviewed on an ongoing basis. Looking at the Municipal Emergency Management Plan, or the MEMP, this plan is reviewed annually as well as all other plans. Minor updates did happen earlier this month, and a more intensive review is happening as we go into 2026. Next slide, please. Now we'll look at emergency management training. I'll begin with the Incident Command System, or ICS. During 2025, we held 7 ICS courses. These courses are offered year-round from all levels. Level 100, which can be completed online, all the way up to 400, which 200, 300, and 400 are complete in person. Approximately 10% of city staff have some level of ICS training, and since November 2024, 86 city staff have taken ICS training beyond the 100 level. Now looking at tabletop exercises. A tabletop exercise, we may see it as a TTX. It's a facilitated discussion, testing plans, talking through the decision-making process and roles. These are mandated and scheduled annually, and the topics are based on corporate priorities and emerging risks. Now looking at functional exercises. The province mandates that the municipality conducts a functional exercise every 4 years. This is a lot more in-depth than the previously mentioned tabletop exercise. We try to make it a more stressful environment. There's time constraints, and the city fulfills this by completing a full-scale exercise every 4 years. And I do just want to highlight that training is conducted with both internal and external partners, so that way there's better cohesiveness should a disaster occur. Emergency social services training is offered on a regular basis with approximately 30 volunteers participating, and this is led by the other emergency planning administrator, Jamie Anderson. Next slide, please. Now looking at the Alberta Emergency Management Agency, or AEMA review. So the 2 South Zone field officers were very happy with the latest review that they conducted last year. Some of the supplementary items or best practices, I'm happy to report that we've already completed those, or they are in progress. There were 2 action items which have largely been mentioned earlier in this committee meeting. The primary one being that we need to ensure the EAC meets annually, and incorporating the Alberta Incident Management System, or AIMS, into municipal plans. Next slide, please. As we look ahead into 2026, we're looking at continuing the regular offerings of ICS training and other emergency management related topics held throughout the year. We will continue the plan review throughout the year, and that will be in accordance with best practices. I'm happy to report that we've updated 6 plans to date. Maintaining readiness. Training and plan review are a big part of this, but so is ensuring that resources and assets are inspected and regularly maintained. This includes our call-out system, as well as computers and phones. Now looking at the bylaw review, we would like to begin a review of the city's emergency management bylaw, and I'll pass that over to Chief Adair to speak to.
Thank you, Kevin and Eric. Next slide, please. So as we sit before you here today, we would actually we are looking for your support from the Emergency Advisory Committee to direct us to go away and review and revise our current bylaw 6179 and come back to you before May 31st of this year. There are a number of reasons, and you've heard us talk about them here today in this discussion of why we need to do that, or why we believe we need to do that. First of all, we believe we're currently in non-compliance to Bill 49, and Deputy Chief Kevin McCune was talking about Bill 49 and the definition of emergency. So we need to update that going forward. There's obviously some general housekeeping that we need to address in our current bylaw. We no longer have a senior management team. We now call them an executive leadership team. So again, just some minor housekeeping pieces from there. We want to add in some mitigation and reduction strategies throughout our bylaw. So those are some things, again, Kevin had talked about the mitigation pieces that we want to address that would meet some of the Bill 49 pieces. And then finally, we want to address some of our financial pieces in the new bylaw. Kevin had talked about the HARP, the Hazardous Assistance and Resilient Program. So we want to ensure that that is into our bylaw. From there, we also want to provide us some direction and support on how we deal with evacuees coming into our community. If you all remember last year when we had that request from Manitoba, we recognized that our emergency bylaw didn't provide enough clarity on how to address that situation. So we'd like to take the bylaw away and work on that to ensure that we could effectively address and provide that guidance on evacuees coming into our community. And then finally, we would look for direction on what the thresholds are for the Director of Emergency Management or the EOC on spending limits on how we navigate and address any future event that we may face. So for all of these reasons, we would ask for your support going forward that we could take this emergency bylaw away 6179 and come back to you by the end of March of this year with the revised plan and present to you at that time. And with that being said, I'll just open it up to questions.
Just quickly to clarify, you said end of March, our motion says end of May. Do you need to end of May or to end of March?
You're correct. Thank you.
Okay, make sure we
very
give you
much.
the time you actually require to do it. Okay, so can we just pop the motion up so that we can see that, and that can help guide questions and conversation if needed as well? So exactly as the chief was saying, it is the housekeeping, it's some definition work. It is quite a bit of change, though. I mean, last time we changed it, it really was just definitions. The funding stuff is there, which is why we have, finance sitting in on this meeting as well, and not just emergency services, because there will be some requests to put funding stuff in here as well. So various things. So seeing that as the background, are there any questions from the committee that they would like to ask at this time? Wow, they're all talkers today. I did have a couple of questions. You mentioned a great figure, 86 people have done the ICS above the 100, which is great, but it gives me no context. I don't need to know what the goals are, but in our plans, are there goals set, and are we near to meeting those goals of how many you want trained? Or are we, 86 is like only 10% of what we want trained?
So currently, about 10% of city staff are trained to some level of the incident command system. There is no industry standard. If you were to look across the province or across Canada, it's going to be a varied number. Speaking to other municipalities in Alberta, we're sitting really well with the percentage that we have. It's a little complex, as we look into whether retirements, people leaving the organization, the duration of a disaster, we need a lot of depth. So in order for us to do that, we just want to continue training staff strategically. And part of that is, as we look, as I mentioned, the hazard assessment. So that really establishes what hazards are more at the forefront. So we would target departments that may have a bigger stake in that.
Okay. The HARP training applies to us as a municipality, but it also applies to individual businesses and to the public. This today, we're focused very much on corporate. But is that sort of information about those changes, how is it getting to the average homeowner and the average business owner? Because is it our responsibility as a municipality to forward that on? Is the province doing it? Because just looking at HARP, if you've made 3 claims, you can't make a 4th, or you can only make 4 and never a 5th. Is that something the public is being made aware of? Who's telling them these things? And if we should be doing it, how are we doing it?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. We would look to the province to do some of that public education for sure, but we can definitely take on some of that to assist. That's something, you know, at the community conversations that's coming or happening today, when they come up to the table and they're talking to Eric and Jamie about how do we prepare for an emergency? What do we need to know? That's a perfect opportunity to share some of that knowledge. So I think it's a combination. I do believe we have some responsibility to make sure our community is aware of what can be you know, eligible under that for recovery, but also I believe the province has a piece in that as well. There is some significant changes from the old DRP to HARP. DRP, they made some changes a number of years ago where you could only have 1 claim per street address. So that has now changed, where they're potentially looking at you're eligible for multiple claims, but you also have to show that you're doing something, right? If you rebuild your house where it flooded and you didn't do anything to try to mitigate that, they're unlikely to cover that claim again. So that's really where that mitigation and risk reduction piece comes into HARP. They want to promote building back better. So if they're going to cover you for something, they would love to see that, hey, you're actually doing something to prevent this or at least reduce that risk. And through the new HARP program, the municipality could be eligible. Should we have a infrastructure loss or damage, you could be eligible for 15% extra funding to build back better. So that is really a priority of the new program. And there's 5 different streams that looks at municipality, residents, and business. So it's a great question. I think more communication, that's something we can assist with.
When I look at the mandate of this committee and of our bylaw, I don't think we've ever been very specific. I think we all have our own feelings about it. Is this an emergency management bylaw for the corporation, the community, or both? Because it's not set out in the mandate, and I have my own feelings, but it'd be one of the things I would suggest. It should be very specific. I shouldn't have to ask that question, but I'd like to know what the answer is.
Certainly, I think that would be one of the things that we could clarify going forward into the new bylaw. How does it affect all of those areas? And I look around the table right now, looking for an answer to that. I could give you my assumption.
We all have those, yes.
Yes, but I don't want to do that here today, but I think that would be a good thing that we would take away and provide that clarity going forward.
Yeah, because I mean, there isn't another plan for the residents, right? This is the plan for the residents in my mind. I might get a completely different answer from my colleagues on it, but there is no other organization but us that takes care of the residents and businesses as well. So it would be nice to have a little more clarification on that. All right, I don't see any other questions. Everybody must already be on their mind to be going to community conversations. So thank you very much for coming down and making this presentation. I look forward to seeing you in a year. I mean, you're going to see us earlier than that with the bylaw, but as part of this committee, I hope we have no disasters that require us to have this committee before our annual one next year. I have a motion brought forward. I'm going to give this one to Councillor Bieber because he hasn't had a motion yet today. Everybody get something. Are there any questions? Oh, can I read the motion first? Protocol. Be it resolved that the Emergency Advisory Committee directs administration to 1, amend the Emergency Management Bylaw 6179 for housekeeping, funding framework, and legislative compliance, and 2, bring the amended bylaw to a regular meeting of City Council by no later than May 31st, 2026. And that will be for first reading by no later than May 31st, 2026. I think that's implied, but I just want to make sure we have that awareness. All right. Do we have any questions on the motion? Wow, everybody's quiet today. All right, Councillor Bieber, the motion is yours.
Well, if there are no more questions, I will just, or any questions, I will just call for the vote.
Okay, question has been called. All in favor? I am seeing no one opposed. That passes unanimously. And that is the only thing on the agenda, so we are adjourned at 1:30. Sorry for the very long meeting. See you all.
Yeah.